All right. Thank you all so much for joining us for our third and final webinar of our Coaches Confidential series. Really excited to have Tom Yashinsky here. Tom has been the head coach at Onalaska, Wisconsin, where they have been on board with Hudl since 2009. The past year, the Hilltoppers went 12-1, making it to the state semifinals, and Coach Yashinsky was chosen as the Large School District 1 Coach of the Year. Tonight, he's going to talk to you all about offense and how he uses new Hudl with his offensive strategy and game plan and all of that stuff. So if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. I will try and feed those as much as I can. And if they're about the platform, I will gladly get those answers to you right away. All yours, Tom.
All right. Thanks, Spencer, for having me on and doing this. And I got an outline that I'm going to go through, but as you guys have questions, by all means, jump in, ask those. And I think this thing gets better when you guys ask questions and when, and I might not have all the answers. Spencer might have some of them, or and guys in the chat might have answers as well. But so just a little overview of us. We're about 950 students. We get about 100 kids out for football, between 90 and 100 right now. Our offensive linemen typically go one way, and the rest of the team pretty much learns two positions, unless a kid just simply is not going to, our quarterback's only going to play one way, things like that. So just give you an idea of kind of our program and how we go. We'll have 2 to 3 kids that are full-time playing both ways, and about 5 to 6 kids then in a game we'll see action both ways on a consistent basis. And then obviously other kids sprinkled in, just so you can kind of compare to how that stacks up to your program when I talk about some of this stuff and time and just how you structure your practices and whatnot. The first thing that I'm going to show you guys, some of you have probably been using New Hudl for a while now, maybe used it last season. Some of you maybe are only using it this season because, Hudl's really pushing you to go that direction. But I'm going to tell you, the one thing that's going to make it easy to find stuff in the first place is make sure you're labeling your film properly. And if you're not on board with that, then it's the triple dots right there, rename. And every time you pull a game in, just rename it. I know that, I don't know if I have any in here right now, but you'll get some in that are named, like this one, it just says game. And I'm going to guess I pulled this one in after we had played this team, so I didn't bother renaming it, but I just have it for scouting for the next year. But it's hard to know what you're watching or what we're pulling data from if it's not labeled properly. So, get them all labeled, get them in there. And here's another tip. If you play a team a second time in a year, you're going to want to make a copy of the first time you played it and flip the offense and defense so that when you go to scout, you're scouting it properly with the O's and the D's lining up, not the opposite way. If you're unsure of how to make a copy of a game, so I'll go right here. You go copy or move. It brings you into this screen. You find that game, click copy, and then you can flip the offense and defense by clicking that box. And that way it flips the O and the D for you. It doesn't take up any more storage space. Actually, it might take up storage space because you flip the O and the D. But if it's filmed on the focus camera, it doesn't matter anyways. So label that. The other part of this is the search filter right up here, which is new with New Hudl. So if you're looking for maybe it was a week 5 game. Now it has to be under that team. Now you could go with your full lineup here, your full library. And if I just wanted to find when we played West Salem, I could do so. All right. Or you want to find a specific team, that's not going to pull up scout film. If it's on your team, in order to find your scout film, you have to go to that team that you're playing, and then you can see your scout film. We put our JV film in with our varsity simply because our kids will forget that you can switch teams and whatnot up there. So we just put our JV film right in there. Otherwise, you'd have kids on multiple Hudl accounts, and we don't want that, just for structure purposes. So we have our JV Hudl account. We film the game on there, and then we just exchange it with ourselves and get it in there. So yeah, so you can filter, or sorry, you can search what you're looking for like that. And then let's go to like how the different views that we have for Hudl. So I'm going to let's just pick a game from, not that one. Pick a game from this year. So up top here in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see we have really 5 different views of how you can see your film. I'll tell you what I use each of these for. So the watch one is where you're going to get a full screen. I would use this when I have film filtered down and I'm breaking it down, not with data, but I'm analyzing it. Maybe I'm writing something down or taking notes on it, whatever. Maybe I'm grading film or whatnot. That's typically what I use the watch one for. The breakdown one is where you're going to do a lot of your breakdown data in terms of you're going to be punching in the other team's plays, their formations, whatever it might be. You want to start running your filters, and we'll get into these filters here in a second. The analyze is where if you want a bigger screen to try and find, you want to filter stuff, but you want to watch it still in a large screen format. You can still edit data in here by clicking the edit button up here. It drops it down. It's a little bit slower process, but if you're just doing some work on a Saturday morning after the game and something's mistagged, it's an easy way of going in and changing that. And then, so breakdown, that's your big, large scale data breakdown. Collaborate, I'm going to get more into collaborate here later on, but what collaborate is it allows you to type notes, whether it's to your staff or whether it's to players. You can tag people in it. That they can see the exact clip that you're talking about, or whatever you post in here. The whole team can see depending on who the film shared with. So we'll talk about that later. And then navigate is if you just need to find a clip really quick. So you know that it's on there, but you can't see it, or you forgot which one it was. That's how you would get to a clip in a pretty quick manner. I'm going to go over just some of the basics of new Hudl before I get into really how we use it, the game plan, just so that we all have a foundation of where we are starting here and that we're in the same spot. All right. So how do we sort some stuff now? So we kind of know which method we're using or which window we're using. How do we sort to find what we're looking for? How do we break it down? So let's start with, I'm just going to start with offense. So anything you click over here, it gives you live updates in terms of it's like how you would filter stuff in old Hudl or how you would run reports in old Hudl, but it does it live now. So you can see if I take it off of the offense, there's 113 clips. Click offense, goes down to 44 clips. Tells me how many are first down, second down, third down, fourth down, whatnot. You can go more situations. So if I want to look at left hash, okay. Now, as I do that, some other stuff also populates down here. So from the left hash, we're running the ball 70% of the time. We're passing it 30% of the time. It'll even tell you direction as I go down here, more offensive tendencies. From the left hash, we are going 79% of the time. We're running to the wide side of the field. All right. If I go, you can filter that between run and pass. So you can start to get to some breakdown data pretty quick doing that. If you need to edit something, again, just clicking the edit up there and you can change it. Checking my notes here to make sure I don't want to jump ahead and get ahead of myself. Okay, so breakdown. Whatever is on this right side here is also in your data sets that are down here in this grid. Now, you can change these just like you could in old Hudl. The way you do that is if you have some saved from old Hudl, you can click that drop-down arrow, you can import them, and you're going to see all the ones that you had saved previously. you could click them and you can import them. But the other thing you can do is if you have one that you like to use quite a bit, you just click on it, brings it up, right? But now if you want to edit where what's in there, you go in, check it. A lot of these are custom columns you check them. When you check them, they automatically drop down to the bottom of the list, but then you can drag them up to wherever you want so that they fit in your list. And as you add them into the list, those columns will also get added over here to the right. Now, if there's something over here that you really don't want on there because you're trying to look at some sort of data set and it's just getting in the way, you don't want that on there at that point, you can always go triple dots and you can move it to a different category, or you can put it to ungroup stats. And anytime you put it to ungroup stats, it just puts it all the way down here at the bottom, which just kind of buries it for the time being so that you can get it off of your sidebar. So that's that. Okay, so how do we create some playlists? So let's talk about that, because that's something that our coaches have always wondered, especially in old Hudl when you had to drag clips in. So what's an easy way to create some playlists now? So if I'm going to clear my filters. Anytime you want to clear your filters, if you ever get too many things selected at once, and you're just not sure, you can click right there and you can either X off the ones you don't want, or you can clear all. I'm going to start fresh. So let's say I want to scout their defense. All right. And actually, this is our defense. Let me get up some scout film of theirs. Okay. I'm going to pull 2 games in of scout film. And I want to scout their defense. First thing that I often do when I'm going to start scouting a team is I just pull in all their defensive clips, select all, and then you can click add to, and you can I'm going to create a new playlist here. It adds all those clips to that playlist at once. So now as you're going, let's say that there's a penalty, a false start, whatever it might be. Okay, let's pretend that was a false start and you just don't want that in your data anymore. You just go up to the blue check mark where it's added, click the playlist that it's currently in, and it'll remove that from there. And then it'll also at the same time, it updates all of these tendencies that you see over on the right side. So let's get to that playlist. All right, so if I'm on that playlist now. As you're watching it, you can remove plays from that playlist. The other thing that you can do is you can save filters now. So these all up here are filters that I have saved. One of the things that I have that I have really worked on is our red zone offense. And so I have a red zone filter for that. So anytime that if I click on this, it's going to bring up all the other teams' red zone clips. So for them, this is 2 weeks into the season. There was 17 clips of them defending in the red zone. And what it is defense, field zone, 10 and 20. If you wanted to make one that was low red zone, you could do that. So let's do that. Let's clear out that playlist. Let's say that we want a filter that is defense. We're going to find the field zone over on this right side here. Distance, field zone.
More situations. There you go.
Yep, found it. So I want to go just low red zone, right? I want to find out how they defend the goal line, basically. I just go filter. Save. So it says current filter there, save. Scout, defense, low red zone. All right, and now I have a filter that if I were back in just that normal playlist, I go low red zone. It gives me the 8 plays that they defend in that low red zone. And those work across all different teams, right? So even though I created that in the Holman folder, if I went to West Salem and I clicked and I found their full season defense, and now I go filters, low red zone, I can watch the 25 clips that they defended in the low red zone. Okay. I'm going to get back to that Holman game or the Holman defense here. Okay, so saving filters, a big one. So getting on to now, how do we start our breakdown? I'm going to start yet a Saturday post game with how we get to work. The first thing we do, so I'm going to get to one of our games. The first thing that we do is we put in our own data. So we put in our play calls, we put in our formations. We have coaches have assignments. So I have my wide receiver coach is going to go in and he's going to put in all of the pass plays. My running backs coach is going to label all the run plays. I'm going to do the formations. I get to the right breakdown set here. We're going to get to I'm going to put in all the formations, and we get that in so that we can do some self-scout, some breakdown, whatnot. Here's a tip that you can use it or not, but we quit using the offensive formation column because we have Hudl Assist and Hudl puts in the offensive formation automatically. But then defense uses that column also. So defense was having, we're kind of fighting over that column. And how do we label those things? The automatic labeling of them. So we decided that we're going to automatically label them for our defense. And then we would label our formations ourselves. So what we did is I created a custom column of formation family and a custom column of adjuster. And formation family is set so that only 8 things could be entered into it. And an adjuster is open so we can add pretty much anything we want into there. But you can see then that shows up over here on that right side. So that's cleaned up our fighting over the formation family or the offensive formation column that you can kind of get hung up in when when your defense is also using that one as well. Or you can make the defense create a new one and have them do that. But for us, it worked better for self-scout to have our formation family, our adjuster. You could just use the backfield column, which is already there. But I don't have a problem creating custom columns, so we did that. So that's how we start. We enter our data in, and then what we do, or what I do, is I'm going to show you how to use that collaborate feature. So let me get to one that's already been marked up quite a bit. So if you're going to use the collaborate feature, understand that everybody, the entire team, can see whatever you put in here if it's shared with the entire, if the playlist is shared with the entire team. So don't put stuff in here that you don't want every kid on the team to read if the file or if the playlist is shared with the entire team. One thing that we do is we will create a new playlist for the notes so that there aren't a ton of notes on our main copy. So I'll create this playlist, and it just is, for us, it's offensive clips and notes. There's a defensive one where they have also done the same. And that's separate from our full game, which our full game is this one right here. But it just keeps it more clean. So the other hint, or the other major thing on this, when you do that, your clip numbers and your play numbers are not the same. So I go through and I put play 11, and you can put at, so if I go at Adam Skifton, who's our quarterback, that is going to notify him that a new note was made for him. So I always put the play number in here and I always make sure I put the play number, because that's going to stay the same every time. But if you were to delete a clip from here, let's say that I put this as, I went to clip 13 or whatever it was, and I deleted a clip earlier in the play list, Well, now this number that I put here is off. So you always use the play number. But this is how I would do my corrections. Instead of typing it on the, some people will type it using this. I prefer to put it over here because I know that kids aren't going to watch every single clip. Our best kids might. Our middle of the pack kids, they aren't. So if they can go over here and just find their names, and Ben Bossman can say, all right, I need to go to clip 13 or play 13. And now I can watch, what he's talking about. Here's Ben right here. Now I can watch what he's talking about on there, and he watches the ones that I've corrected him on. Would I want him to watch everyone? Absolutely. But they're high school kids. So I use the collaborate feature a ton to get these kids notes and to put them on here so that they can see exactly what I'm talking about, and they get the good and the bad. There's, we're going to praise them up on there. We're going to coach them up on there. Your offensive line coach could create a playlist that only he's going to talk on, and only the offensive line are going to see it. However you want to do that. I just do it for the whole team. I figure if you can't take the coaching, then it's going to be hard for you to take the criticism on Friday night and to get back up if you get beat. So I put it all in there, and it lets kids know. The other thing we do is the kids get a pancake block. We do all of our helmet stickers in here. So they will tag me back in here and say, hey, does this count as a pancake block? Does this, whatever. And it's a way for me to look and say, yep, that works, or no, no good. So conversations is a huge thing that we use. Here's another one. Here's another tip that if you actually go back into that one. If you're somebody who grades film a lot, I created a grading one where you can grade your players in here. Left tackle, you can put the grade in, put the notes in. Left guard, grade, notes. And yeah, it's hard to type in those boxes like that, right? I get that. So what I did, there's setting up the end zone camera. What I did was I created it in a Google form, and I'll show you what that looks like here. I created it in a Google form, and what we would do is I'd have this on an iPad so that I could watch the film all the way through. And there was, so to make it easy, put the clip number in, right from Hudl, just put the clip number in. Your play call, you can type it in, or you can have a selection so that it just goes quicker. And the reason why I liked this is because then you couldn't accidentally spell a play wrong and have it screw up your data in Hudl. So I did that, but you could do it however you wanted. And pass play, then you just go back in and change the play. For the old line, it doesn't matter what, it really doesn't matter what pass play was called unless you're worried about coaching up the protection, whatnot. But and then the most common mistakes were in there, so you could put those in and whatnot. And then what you would do when you were done, once you were done grading your film, is you would export this as a CSV file and then just upload it back to this playlist, and it would just populate all this data for you so that you didn't have to type it all into there. And you could do that on an iPad or iPad with a keyboard if you wanted to, so that you could grade them easy. That's just an option, not something that everybody's going to do, but something that I thought would be a good idea helping out offensive line coaches. Here's another tip in terms of labeling your film. Let me get to making sure that, see, my columns over here are all, they're different because I had the other one up. So let's go back to, there we go. I don't put play direction in our plays on Hudl. I only put my offensive play here. I only put the like, if it's power, I just put power. I don't put power right. And the reason for that was that it helps me with it helps the data to be more pure, I thought, where if it was power right or power left, and you just get too many variations of things down there. So so I don't put the direction in there. Spencer, where's my offensive play?
It'll be under offensive tendencies.
There we go. It's minimized.
Yeah.
Got it.
We do have a couple of questions here. So one is, are there any other data columns that you like to use?
You know, the blitz one is one that we will often use, and we don't necessarily always label them in terms of like specific what blitz. I'll oftentimes just put a yes. And the reason I do that is because then I go through and I filter by all my yeses, and then we draw them up from there. And so what we'll do is we'll mark blitzes as I'm watching, rather than getting super in depth on and taking the time at that moment to say what blitzes are they running. I just put, yep, they're blitzing, mark them down. And then from there we go and we somebody else will draw them up, and then we put them into our go routes. I don't know how many people are go route people, but we put them into go routes, which are these devices that people or that kids wear on their belt during practice, and they automatically send the blitz in. So when we're doing our blitz pickup period, we got all of our blitzes drawn up, we send it, kid looks down at his belt and runs the blitz without ever having to go back to a scout huddle book and try to, we can get a ton of reps in a short period of time. We use those a ton for blitz pickup, and then our scout offense uses the heck out of them as well. You any questions on those, shoot me a message and I can help you on that too. So blitz is a big one. Coverage can be a one that we use a lot in terms of if a team mixes coverages, but outside of that, like I don't have any other big custom columns that I use. I'm guessing that's what they're asking, just for custom columns.
Yeah. Let us know if you had some specific ones, we can go to that. And then Garrett just asked if you would be willing to share that Google form to anybody who is interested in it, just to use it as a test.
Yeah, shoot me a direct message on Twitter if you have it. If you don't, email me, and I'll get that to you. So the other part of my workflow is so as I'm watching, the other thing I'm doing is I'm drawing up their formations, right? And I know that a lot of you probably you're probably doing scout cards, you're doing it electronically. I like to draw these things up on pen and paper, and I made a bunch of templates and they got hashes on them. So, how are they defending this formation from let me pull up some scout defense here. So, refresh that. All right. So I pull up their, I think I still got ours selected here. So I got to find offensive formation. So how are they, there we go. How are they defending deuce, right? So, and then also, not only how are they defending deuce, but how are they defending deuce from the right hash? Is that changing it? How are they defending it from the middle? Is that changing it? And drawing those up so that I can take a look at that and have those scout cards ready to go for our defense. The other part of this is when I started clicking around through these filters before as a self-scout, it really showed me my own tendencies, which is a good thing to do. And sometimes it can be kind of scary when you realize, holy cow, 80% of the time we're running one direction from a hash. Like, we better start finding a way to, to break that tendency or find a counter for that tendency. Okay, so conversations, talked about that. As I am making a game plan, as I'm starting to game plan, anything that comes to mind goes into a playlist called game plan. So if I got West Salem's defense up here, and this play, something about it, all right, that I liked, I click add, go to the game plan, and I drop it in there. Okay, maybe it was a blitz. I drop it into the blitz the blitz game plan. You could put multiple plays into the same play into multiple playlists at the same time, which is pretty slick. And then that helps me to organize my thoughts so that later on when I go back, I can look and say, all right, here's my 34 plays in the game plan, in the playlist, the game plan playlist that I want to go over as a staff. And then we can start narrowing it down, like, how are we going to go? What are we going to do against this? How are we going to block this front? How are we going to, maybe we're going to steal a play from another team that they ran, or we saw coverage that we think we can exploit, things like that. So that's how I use that game plan folder, or that game plan playlist. Talked about marking blitzes and putting those into go route, drawing up how they align, the different templates that I had there. Talked about my red zone filter, which I really like the save filters. And then a big one also is each week, what I'll do is I'll put our offensive clips into a playlist just of our offense. And I think it's an important thing that you add it in each week, and you just start seeing, like, all right, on first down, we're 60% run. Okay. Or from the left hash, what are we doing? We're 50-50 run pass. All right. That's not a big deal. But what direction are we going? Okay. So from the left hash, 76% of the time, we're running right. All right. Might be something that we want to fix. Or our pass plays. So let's look at just all of our pass plays. What direction are our pass plays? You know, it's 56-44, not a big deal, but just something to keep an eye on as you go. And then running those same filters on yourself. You know, maybe it's the red zone. In the red zone, which direction are we typically going with the football? And because if we can do this as an offense and self-scout ourselves, you know that the defense is getting that same info if they have, depending on how many games they have. We have a conference film pool, which means that, you know, by week 9, I have all 8 of the other team's games at that point. So you can run a pretty extensive, you know, scouting report on a different team, depending on the data that you put in, but they can also run one on you as long as they're putting the time into that. So self-scout, I think, is super important. Also, just to know, what are they expecting out of you? How are you going to counter those things? And then from there, we start, once we get that, we meet on Sundays. This might be different for other staffs, but we don't meet in staff or in person as a staff at all on the weekends. We don't bring the kids in at all on the weekends. We meet on Zoom for an hour or 90 minutes or so on a Sunday night. And we do all of our game planning in terms of like collaborative game planning, either that way or via text message and a Google Doc. We have a Google Doc that for each team that people put information in as we're going. And then we look at that as we're meeting and say, all right, is this going to work? Does this not work? What do we think about this look? Another thing that I like to do when I am scouting another team is pull up there. Is I like to look and see, you know, of the plays that they gave up the biggest gains on. Is there a kid that is typically giving, you know, always around those clips or always around the ball on those that you can try to exploit? This is something in 2019 that in a playoff game really helped us. We noticed that there was a cornerback that on every big play in the 4 or 5 scout films that we had, he was always the guy that was getting beat. So the first play of the game, we found a way to scheme up our kid versus that kid. And, you know, it was an 80-yard touchdown. Like, and it seems easy, but it's just something you have to pay attention to. Like, is there somebody that all of the big plays are going at that kid? And finding that out. And you can do that by, you know, your 12 plus gains here under outcomes, gain, loss, you know, sort of. And right here, 45 clips. So watch those 45 clips and see how many explosive plays. Take note. Who's around the ball in those explosive plays? What's happening there? They always running to one side. And again, so once I have that clicked, I can look up here and I can see, are they giving them up on run plays or pass plays? Are they giving them up from a certain hash? Are they giving them up or are they going a certain direction? Whatnot. So you can use your live updating sorting here. So for them, 53% of the time, their explosive plays went to the left, 47% to the right. So not a real big difference, but you might find a team where there is a big difference. And that tells you, hey, they're a lot weaker on one side of the defense than they are on the other. Or field boundary, right? 25 clips to the field as opposed to the, only 10 the other direction. So things like that. The other thing that I'll do is break down their pass plays. I got to clear some filters out here. Break down them defending pass on different downs and distances. So click on pass and first down. Are they blitzing a ton on first down? If I have these yes boxes checked, if I put a yes every time they blitzed in here, it'd be an easy one for me to sort and say, all right, are they blitzing a lot on first down? Are they blitzing a lot on second down? In 2019, we had played Hudson, and we noticed that Hudson on third down, which some people might think is a big blitz down, they actually played a lot of coverage. So we knew our screen play wasn't going to be a good play on third down because they were much more likely to drop back into coverage than they were to blitz. But we knew on second down, they really liked to blitz. So we called our screen play on second down instead of third, and it was a 50-yard touchdown. So those are the types of things. And obviously we didn't have new Hudl back then, but you can get to those conclusions a lot quicker in a live time now, just by sorting those. So, you go by downs, you might go by field zone. Are they playing different coverages in different field zones? It all depends on how much data your staff is putting in terms of what you get out. And I would break up who's putting in that data. Your wide receiver coach is probably going to be a guy that puts in coverages. The more complex your league is, the more data you're probably going to put in. Our league isn't the most complex in terms of like defensive schemes because we got a lot of guys that are playing both ways. So you might know they're only going to play 2, maybe 3 coverages, but we're not getting teams that are playing 5, 6 coverages. So we don't always label coverage unless it's a new opponent or it's somebody that just or somebody that mixes a ton. Like last year, we played a River Falls team, and these guys are really good at mixing coverages. They were really good at mixing coverages. So it was one where it's like, all right, we're going to have to label coverages versus these guys to try and decipher what's coming, predict it. Spencer, any more questions that we got out there?
Yeah. Keith just asked, why do you tag the passer and rusher just to help with statistics or what?
Yeah, that's just stats wise. And the other part of it is so that we can sort who, I can sort by play in terms of, let's go here. It's mostly just a stat thing. But as you go down here, you can see, all right, Nicky Odom's getting the ball 44% of the time when we throw it. And you can see from there, you can also see his average gains and things like that. But it's really just a stat thing. And then also to help find plays like, hey, we threw that one. I know we threw that one to Nicky. Let's take, we'll find it, or for highlight purposes. So kids that can find their highlights a lot easier when they have that. But it's not really a game plan thing by any means. It's more just a stat thing.
Smart. Do you print your reports out for scout books?
We do not. I do not print reports. Our defense, he puts together PowerPoints and things like that, and we both do a Zoom, or not a Zoom, but a screen recording presentation. So after we meet and we have everything decided in terms of what we're going to put in on offense, I have them all drawn up electronically, and then I also put film to it, and I show our kids with a video of the install that's going to go in. And then I posted into Google Classroom. We're a Google school, so we have Google Classroom. They all know how to use Google Classroom. So I post that screen recording in there. I post the PowerPoint slides that have everything on it, and then the video with me showing the defense or the video. And then I also share the game plan video with them. Our defensive guy does the same thing, and but I don't like handing out stuff because it typically gets lost, thrown away, and all that. So it's all in Google Classroom. They know how to find it. But again, 5 kids would take that and actually use it, and the other 50 kids on varsity or 40 kids would leave it behind or lose it because they do that with their homework anyways.
Oh gosh, it's nice to know that happens every
Yeah. Yep. I know we're not alone.
Yeah. The second part of it is, can you create custom reports in New Hudl? Yes, you can. So if you go to the reports on any of the sections there where it shows report, yeah, if you just click on that report button, yep, or open reports, that works. Then at the top there, you can, where it says overview, you can select different sections within there. Now, the key here is that right now you can only select 3 options. So what I always recommend, if you're going to, you want more than 3, because I know in Classic you can have a whole bunch. We came up with 3 because we saw that majority of the time 3 is how many people are really seeing to get the numbers narrowed down enough. But if you want more, all you do is filter outside of it. So, if you want to see all the run plays from 3rd down and then run your report on whatever you need to, you can filter on the outside and then run your report within here. Yeah, you have the option to print, share it, save it, whatever you need to do from right there. You can see at the upper right there that you can do that part as well.
And you can edit it, so once you're in this full screen mode right here, you can you can still change it. You don't have to, you don't have to go back to the small screen to change it.
Yep. And it anything that's in here, those are all like clickable. So I can filter by whatever I need to at that point, and see that specific film there. And then the filters show up at the top so that if you want to save that specific one so you can look at it every week, you can do that just like Tom showed earlier.
Filter, save current filter. Yep.
Exactly.
That's a good question. I don't use the reports a ton, especially in the season. I have in the past, in the postseason, but I have found that because it's so good. Now I could see defensive coaches really liking this, and I could see some offensive coaches too, but the live data for me is awesome. Like I don't see myself looking at the full report anymore. I used to print it out every year. But now I find myself just using this sidebar, sorting it. And once I find, like right now I'm on all of my fly sweep clips. Typically what I do then is I get into the watch mode and I watch them from full screen. That's what I love about all these different viewing angles, is it's so easy to just jump back and forth between the two. Once you find clips that you want to watch, get to watch, go full screen, whatnot.
For sure. Keith asked, does your defense tag the other team for game planning?
Yes, 100%. Our defense, and I think our defensive coordinator is a guy that really likes Excel. So I think he types it all into Excel and then uploads his spreadsheet into New Hudl or into Hudl. But they definitely tag the other team. Our defensive coordinator has done a good job, so I don't mess with him too much. He got as little advice as he's ever gotten this year from me. So he definitely tags their stuff. Like, let's see, I got to get to some scout film to show that. So yeah, you'll see not all of these are labeled because we played this team week 1 and then we played them again week 13. So we didn't break down 13 games or 12 games worth of stuff. But you can see he's tagging it. The formation, family, and adjuster is not there because that's an offensive column for us. But yep, you can see that they're tagging the defense for sure. Some of those times it doesn't always have the data back in because he puts it into a different playlist. Like he creates a whole new, he copies a playlist and puts it in there. Sometimes he shares them back with me. Sometimes I have to go share them back to myself. But defense was cooking this year, so I didn't meddle in it much.
Ray asks, do you show film to players at any time before your next opponent?
Oh yeah, Mondays. So Mondays are our big film day, where we really don't touch the field much on Mondays. And we're in the classroom for, sometimes it might be close to 90 minutes, and that's a little long for me. But we'll be in there, and offense gets 30 to 45 minutes. Defense gets 45 minutes. He usually pushes longer than I do. So yeah, we definitely show them film, and then we're making playlists all week long and sending them out, and we're posting them. The other thing is we film all of our practice. I'll show you our practice film here. We use a drone and we film practice, and we're coaching kids up off of practice film every week. Our defensive coordinator has an adjustment period, so we'll have our defensive practice, and he's then coming in the next day, and we have an adjustment period where, like this play, I'm going to guess if he didn't like how they passed this post route off, he's coming in and saying, hey, we missed on this one. We got to make sure that we're getting to this quicker. So again, tagging kids. All right. Tagging kids on film right here. This is my defensive coordinator, and he's letting them know, hey, on clip 103, make sure you're inside out to the from quarterback to pitch. So absolutely, we'll show them film. Our offensive line meets every day we get done with school at 2:50. Our practice starts at 3:30. Our offensive line usually meets from 2:55 to 3:10 for 15 minutes, and they watch yesterday's practice film. Coach has already watched it. He shows them 15, 20 clips of stuff that we need to fix. And for sure, we're showing kids film throughout the week of ourselves and our opponents.
Awesome. What's your favorite tendency? Red zone, third down, first down? What are you?
Red zone was the biggest area of study last year. So 21 going into 22, red zone was the biggest area of study because we were so terrible in the red zone in 2021, and I thought it cost us close games. So that was my off-season project, was breaking it down and how do we score in the red zone. And then this season, the same thing. How do we score in the red zone? And we weren't great early in the season. We also played some pretty high quality teams early in the season. We got better as the season went on, and we finished a lot better than we started there. So that's the big one. And then red zone or a third down also, I think is a big one. So how do they defending third down, especially, kind of breaking it up, third and long, third and medium, third and short? How do they defend those so that you have a plan for those? And then practicing those situations in practice. I can show you a practice plan here of how we let me see. I'll show you a practice plan of how we set that up for how we practice it. We are a big Google team here. So we have a document. There's our practice schedule. Here's our play script. On Tuesday, we practice third down. We go 3rd and 10, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2. On Wednesday, we practice red zone. We go from the 20, from the 12, from the 6. And we might have went back to this is from the 2. I don't know why it said 10 there, but we go from the 20, 12, 6, and 2, and we practice our red zone plays. And these are are all ones that we have. A lot of times we've practiced them here, but we've also walked through them in pre-practice. So our practice starts at 3:30, but any install plays at 3:15, our offense is walking through on air, never on a defense, but on air. Helmets are off, they're on a line, pretty loose period, but let's walk through it so we know what we like in those situations.
Like it. James asked, does Hudl Assist break down your own formations? You kind of touched on this, right?
Yeah. So I'll show you what they do for those of you, if maybe you are a Hudl Assist team, maybe you aren't. But if you go, let's see, team settings.
Yep.
And formation names, it diagnoses, I should say, I guess, let's see, it's going. Okay, so it gives you every formation in here, and then you pick how you label it. The one thing that it does not do is it does not label direction. So you never want to put this as trips tight bunch left in the label, because then even if this formation was mirrored and flipped the other way, it's still going to call it trips tight bunch left, because that's what that was. So you never put a direction in there. So it could label your own formations if you wanted it to. We choose to not do that because we have them labeled how the defense is going to label them. So that's just a personal preference from our staff. Now you could say like, well, we're gonna offensive and defensive terminology is always going to be the same. There's still just some verbiage differences on how you call stuff. We are a very verb heavy or word heavy team, so our play calls get kind of long. We're a no huddle team, and everything's a signal. But when you put those signals into words, it can get kind of long. So, yeah, so it's labeled for defense.
Yeah, and I always throw in the caveat that if you have Hudl Assist for game and scout, what side of the ball is going to be looking at the offense more? Your defensive staff is going to be looking at other teams' offenses more. That's why I always lean towards having your defensive staff name those formations, because realistically your offense, all you're naming is your offensive formations from your game, which can go pretty quick. So that's kind of that's my idea of it. Obviously, it's not how you have to do it, but that is it. It helps for sure when your defense doesn't have to go in and retag 7 games towards the end of the year to get that film breakdown and stuff.
Yeah, and you're going to break down your own offense anyways, so
right, exactly. Okay, Ray got in late. He wanted to see you move. Ray, I assume by clips you mean moving the cards around on the right side to the different sections there. So
okay, so how you, all right,
yep.
So go to breakdown. If to move them to a different section, you click the triple dots, and then you can move, you can move to ungroup stats. You can't move run pass to a defensive thing. But you can, if you want to get rid of it there. If you want to add different things to your breakdown right here, you go click this drop down, click the pencil next to the one that you're on, and then you can reorder these columns right here. And as you reorder those, they will also reorder to a certain extent on the right side. They're going to reorder, but they're going to stay within their grouping. So like your offensive ones are going to stay with your offensive ones. Your defensive ones are going to stay with your defensive ones, but you can move them around so that they move a little bit through those. And then, and then if you want to add new ones, they're over here on the left side. I think that answers your question, Ray. Let me know if it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, if that is not what you were looking for, by all means. Okay, awesome. He said yes, it does. Good deal. Any other questions from anybody before we wrap up here? This has been a great section. On Classic, it is both the directional pad and enter.
So I think you're talking how you watch the film, I'm gonna guess. So there's a couple of hotkeys to remember with new Hudl. One is V, the letter V jumps ahead 5 seconds. I can't stand when my coaches use the mouse to control the film when we're watching film. It just drives me nuts. So the letter V goes ahead 5 seconds. Now, the one thing that changes that makes that better now is that you got the snap detection is live. So snap detection, you can see down here that Hudl has built in where the snap detection, it's finding the snap. But before that, you just press the letter V and it gets you ahead 5 seconds. Left arrow goes back, right arrow goes forward, up arrow is slow motion back, down arrow goes back kind of quick. You hold, how do you go slow motion forward? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's I believe it's up or it's down on the arrow key.
Up is slow motion back. Oh yeah, down is slow motion forward. All right, it was quick to the first time I hit it, it was quick. So it goes forward. So does that make sense for
yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, he had asked about with the entering information ODK, it's kind of clunky right now. So he and I were actually discussing the fact that when you go down in ODK or whenever you're in one of the columns, now it will
hold shift, right?
Holding shift will control the video.
Yeah.
But if you just hit the down arrow without holding shift, it just pulls you into the drop down there.
Correct.
Rather than going to the next one, you just have to hit enter, and then it takes you to the next play at that
But
point.
if you're in this breakdown column, that's actually a good question, because it was something that Nate's on the design team, that him and I had gone over for a while. When you're in these columns and you're editing data, you're typing stuff in and you get mad because you got to go back up here and click to watch the film again, to stop it, whatnot. If you hold shift and then use your arrow keys, it takes you back to controlling your film. So that's a solution for if you're typing stuff in and you don't want to have to use the mouse much, just hold shift. The person that asked about the drone, if you shoot me a direct message, I'll explain. I can even share a document with you on the drone. But I can tell you what kind of drone we use and how you get that in, and how you get that to Hudl and all that. Getting it to Hudl is super easy. Flying a drone at practice is super easy. We had a girl do it the last 2 years. A kid that's injured can pick it up in a day. Put it into a tree one time, it still worked, luckily.
Love it. Greg asked, you mentioned third down and not running a screen due to coverage for splits. What do you look for in a defense for third and short?
I mean, it's just kind of like alignment. And, another thing is, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to box everything in, or are they trying to spill everything? If they're trying to box everything in, then is there a way you can get to the perimeter? Can you crack and get outside of that guy? But if they're trying to spill everything, then you better find a way to kick somebody out and get upfield, because if they're spilling everything, that safeties are running alleys, that linebackers are flowing over the top of that. So it really, you just have to kind of understand what's the structure of that defense trying to do. Are they boxing? Are they spilling? Are you faster than them? Those types of things are some of the third down things that you got to look for, in my opinion, on how you attack them. Can you sprint out? We love sprint out pass. Can you how's their coverage? Are they man? Are they zone? Or you got the cross guys? If they're blitzing people, can you hit them on a crossing route? Can you quarterback get rid of the ball quick? So just kind of things like that.
Love it. Greg asked if you have any trick plays or how do
Holy
you.
cow. I gotta, we'd have to go for another couple hours if you want to see. Greg, shoot me a message on Hudl or email me and I can send you some trick play stuff. I got a lot of trick play stuff.
Love it. Ray, what do you need to know about filters, or what are you looking for with filters?
This got recorded, Ray. I would tell you, I think, did Ray get in a little bit late? Is that what he had said earlier?
Yeah.
I would tell you, Ray, if you go watch the first 10 minutes of this, the filters get hit pretty hard. And if that still doesn't make sense after watching that, then shoot me a message on Hudl and I can run through it. I'd even jump on a Zoom with you if you wanted. But yeah, I hit the filters pretty hard early on.
Yeah, for sure. And for everybody who's curious, this, like Tom said, this is being recorded. The last couple have been sent out Friday morning, afternoon. I believe that's what we're shooting for again. If for some reason we get held up, I would expect it to be out Monday. So be watching your emails for a recording of this, and you can watch it however many times you want as far as that goes. Also, Tom's Twitter handle is on his Zoom there. I think it's T-Yash. What's the number behind
42. T-Yash
42. Perfect. T-Yash 42. Like he said, shoot him a DM if you have some questions or anything like that. He's offering up to request some film from him. He's happy to send that your way as well. If there's no more questions at this point, I want to thank Tom for sitting in, and thank you all for coming tonight. And I want to put out there that we do still offer one-on-one sessions with Hudl, with our expert chats, so you can sign up for one of those. You pick the time and day, one of our people will give you a call. And from there we can send you, we can walk through it all. You can sign up for a Zoom. So if you want your whole staff to come and sit in and understand it more, and we can be in your system, so we can go through anything on your page that's maybe a little more confusing and all of that stuff for sure.
Here's my email. Somebody had asked about my email.
Perfect. Coach Yash at Gmail. All right. Thank you all so much.
I appreciate it, Spencer. If anybody has any questions, by all means, email or shoot me a direct message on Twitter.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much for sitting with us, Tom. Really appreciate it. Everybody have a good night.